Hello friends, today we'll see the topic Forensic Anthropology's Module 3, that is the old or new bones, the bones which we will get at the crime scene, whether they are old or new. Now, when did they die? This is one of the major questions during a death investigation. The measure of published methods that can be divided into two main categories, that is, the early postmortem period and those during the late postmortem period. So, first we'll see the last postmortem interval. So, there may be the botanical method, that is palynology, the study of pollen grains, and the botany, they assist in the forensic investigation. By recognizing the pollen species which is adhered to the articles of clothes or the other body parts, now seasonal exposure can be indicated, especially within the interred remains. Alternatively, rootlet infiltration of remains can similarly aid in estimation through the counting of concentric annual growth rings within the perennial plants, similar to that used for the dendrochronology. But these methods rarely provide accurate answers, as growth rings only indicate the minimal time since death, although such techniques may suggest a season or the year in which the individual died. Now, second method is the time-dependent morphologic alterations to the bone matrix. Now, in these aging of the bone, from this diagram from the left to right, initially the bones continues to have a greasy appearance. Okay, then loss of protein and the blood product contained over the centuries results in increasingly chalky texture and the appearance, as you can see here. Now the third one method is old and new bone sandwich effect. So you can see that in these two figures, this is the recent bone and this is the older bone. So if we take the transverse section of the aging bone, it shows the changes of the recent appearance. Okay, now you can see that this is the periosteum, this is the uniform layer of hard tissue, and this is the spongy bone. This we will get in the recent bone. But as the bones get older, you can see that the periosteum layers get thinner. Okay, and there forms a middle zone that is called as the sandwich effect in the older bones. Okay, so in this picture also you can see how to identify the new old bone and the new bone. So this is new recent one and this is the old one. Okay, another one method is the physical test. Now if the cut surface of bone is examined under the uh, ultraviolet light, recent bone will be fluorescent or shines with a silvery blue tint across the whole cut surface. Okay, but if the bone is older one, the surface will be non-fluorescent. Okay, so you can see that the total time for loss of complete fluorescent was estimated somewhat at 100 to 150 years. Okay, now fifth one method is chemical and serological tests, how to identify the old and new bone. Now another one is what benzene test or the Casimir test that may be positive up to 100 years. Okay, so this test detects presence of blood also. Now chemical and serological tests, which is continue. In these methods, serological tests such as the precipitation test is useful. Gel diffusion or the Coombs reagent may be positive for 5 to 10 years. So this method we can also use. So here you can see that where there is a veil in the gel, so we can extract the we can prepare the bone extract, put it into the well, and towards the opposite well we can put the other species sera, and when the precipitant line comes we can say that the particular bone extract is of that species or the human being or animal one. Then nitrogen content. So presence of nitrogen into the fresh bones that have the percentage that is 4.5. Okay, as the bone become older, what happened, it progressively lost the nitrogen. If the nitrogen content is about 4%, then the death interval may be up to 100 years. Okay, and at about 350 years the nitrogen content falls to 2.5% or less than that. So you can see in this graph how the age wise or the year wise the percentage of nitrogen get decreases. Okay, Seventh one is what? The amino acid content. Amino acid content was extracted by heating bone samples in a hydrochloric acid solution and analyzed it in the case of Knight and Lauder by two-dimensional chromatography. Now, proline and hydroxyproline that provide the most useful information, even though other amino acids such as glycine and alanine are present in the higher concentrations. Depending upon the storage environment, proline and hydroxyproline they are absent in the specimens of the post-mortem intervals greater than 50 years, making them useful in the forensic investigation. Other amino acids they are lost over subsequent decades, although the glycine may persist for millennia. But there may be technical difficulties in identifying the presence or absence of the particular amino acids, and it should not be recommended as a sole means of estimating the time since death. Another one method is what? Radiocarbon or the carbon dating. And the ninth method is the FTIR spectroscopy. Okay, so this FTIR spectroscopy and the chemometrics as an attractive alternative for the estimating the post-mortem interval of human remains, and the great potential of this technique in the real forensic cases with the natural conditions. Thank you.